was a serial killer who bragged about killing people, and he professed and confessed to be a demon.
He was that, bro. If he wanted you out of there, he'll go do it himself on feet by himself.
But today, I want to show you the man who made it possible for us to even have King Von, the one they called Silk from Ada Park. Before Daquan Bennett ever hit the scene, there was Walter E. Bennett, better known as Silk. And listen to this, even though he and Von looked so much alike they could have been twins, there was actually a whole 20-year gap between them. Von's pops, Walter, was born on October 28, 1974, and from the very start, his life was far from normal.
He gave me a lot of passes. He could have killed me a couple times.
According to multiple sources, Walter Bennett came into this world under wild circumstances. His parents were so deep in the streets, they couldn't even risk showing up to a regular hospital. They had no idea who might pull up on them, because even back then, the block was hot and unpredictable. So instead, he was brought into the world by a midwife on silk sheets. Can you believe that?
I was happy as hell when I found out Von was dead. I cooked for the whole day.
I was relieved for the community, man, because he was over there torturing them guys, man. I ain't gonna...
That's how he got the name Silk. His folks weren't broke either. They had that street money flowing heavy, enough to afford luxuries most people couldn't even dream of. Silk grew up around Ada Park, right in the heart of Morgan Park, a place known for loyalty, hustle, and heavy street influence. His pops, a cool, laid-back gangster, the kind of man who only spoke when it really mattered. But his mom, she was fire, a total live wire, full of energy and attitude, the perfect balance to his father's calm.
2012, everybody couldn't hang with Von. Like, if you was hanging with Von, you had to accept everything that came with Von. You had to accept that you was gonna be in shootings, accept that it was gonna be that, and you had to be with it, you feel me, with Von.
And even though she was a woman, nobody dared to test her. She was the type who'd check you real quick if you said something stupid, no hesitation. But at the same time, she was tough, smart, and fiercely independent, earning major respect from everyone in the hood. Silk's mama didn't rely on anyone, and that same energy passed straight down to her son. After a while, Silk's parents went their separate ways, and that's when his stepdad stepped in, a man who would change his whole life. His name? Big Reggie, a straight-up street legend, and not just any hustler.
You feel me? And this was a lot of the time, everybody didn't want to hang with him. They couldn't, because you had to be on what he was on. A lot of people weren't on what Von was on.
This man was a millionaire with serious pull in the game. Big Reggie taught Silk how to move smart, how to stay 2 steps ahead, and how to handle business without getting caught slipping. That's the moment that shaped Silk into the street legend he eventually became. But here's the twist. Before all that, Silk wasn't even out there in the streets like that. Folks who grew up with him said he was always over at Ada Park, balling out instead. He might not have been the tallest dude on the court, but he had real skills. People around the neighborhood swore he could have made it to the NBA. That's how good he was.
Von was like that, you feel me? So that was faking, for sure ain't want to end up somewhere with Von by themselves. You feel me? Niggas that was soft, really didn't want nothing to do with this. They went back, they weren't trying to kick it with Von and stay around him too long, you feel me?
And that's where life took a turn, a real what-if moment. If Silk had made it to the NBA, things would have been completely different. He would have pulled his whole family out the hood, no question about it. King Von wouldn't have ever grown up in O-Block, never even set foot in Wild City. No V-Roy, no OTF, no wild story to tell. Just a rich kid living good as the son of an NBA star. But instead of chasing that basketball dream, Silk jumped headfirst into the streets. He became part of the Black Disciples and started hustling hard. And you already know, that kind of move comes with serious consequences. It wasn't long before the law caught up with him, and Silk ended up getting hit with a charge that landed him 9 years in Menard Correctional Facility, one of the toughest and most dangerous prisons in the whole state.
Who hired him? The whole city knew who hired him because Silk allegedly broke into a house and took some money, and the people had cameras or whatever the case may be. And I later found out who it was, And I didn't know him from a can of paint.
When Silk finally got out, his name carried weight. He was respected for keeping it solid. No snitching, no talking, no folding under pressure. The streets saw that and rewarded him big time. The Black Disciples gave Silk control over the BD Tower on Robert Taylor Holmes and State Street.
They like, man, you got to know him, you know, and so I don't know him. And word got back to me that somebody dropped a bug in his ear and let him know that I ain't about that, and I ain't, you know, I'm a Muslim and I'm doing this, that, and other. So stand down. You ain't got to worry about him coming to retaliate or what's this, that, and other. So it's just what it was. You know what I mean? That's just what it was. And do I believe he was backdoored by the people who he went on this thing with? Yeah, but I don't have any proof, and I only speak facts. You know what I mean? I only speak facts, and whatever in the dark got to come to the light, and no soul shall taste death without God's permission. So that's just what it is.
His own spot to run and manage like a boss. They didn't just hand it to him out of loyalty. They knew Silk had the brains, the presence, and the street sense to make it work. That's when the money really started rolling in. Word on the block is that Silk became a millionaire while he was still young, making real paper while keeping things tight with his crew. Everyone in the city knew his name. Silk commanded respect wherever he went. But he wasn't all about flexing or wild behavior. He looked out for his people, always made sure his crew was good, and had a big heart underneath that tough exterior.
I got a special connection to him. I don't have the BD OTF connection. I got a different type of connection. When I saw nigga, I saw my big brother again. Big bro died, I saw my big brother again.
Still, Silk wasn't someone just anybody could hang with. He only rolled with a small circle, the ones he trusted with his life. If you were part of Silk's team, you had to be ready for whatever came your way, because when Silk moved, things got serious fast. Sounds familiar, right? That's exactly how King Von was. Tay Capone even said in an interview, not everyone could hang with Von, because if you did, you knew you might end up in a shootout, and you had to be ready to use that strap. While King Von's father was living that wild, fast-paced life, he definitely wasn't afraid to show it off. Silk loved the finer things, especially cars. He was always pulling up in the newest rides, shining fresh paint and chrome, making the whole block stop and stare.
You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Like, I'm with Big Bro every day. Kill his daddy with a sniper rifle. This shit get deep though, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, sniper. He hit him with a sniper rifle. They at the skate rink, but you know, that's another story. He was a different nigga, you know what I'm saying? But he just like Von, big heart. You got a big heart.
Whenever Silk came around, the neighborhood came alive. Music bumping, people laughing, everyone trying to catch a glimpse. He was like a local superstar, straight out of a movie. And when it came to the ladies, Silk had no shortage of attention. Word on the street was that he carried a big old key ring everywhere he went, stacked with keys from different ladies. Each one belonged to a lady who trusted him enough to let him pull up whenever he wanted. That man had charm, confidence, and game. The streets say he was a real player, living fast and loving every bit of it. But all that energy came with consequences. Silk ended up having 7 kids with different women, which caused a lot of drama and tension. That's also what led to him and Von's mom going their separate ways, and because of that, Von didn't get to spend much time with his dad growing up. Still, reports say Silk was never a deadbeat father. He didn't stay away because he didn't care. He stayed away because he was always locked up, caught in that street cycle. Even with the distance, Von never stopped loving him. He spoke highly of his dad every time, never a bad word. In his tweets, Von would always mention how the streets took his father from him too soon.
Von was set up that night. So therefore, this was orchestrated. The people were paid to kill him that night. Fist for fist, knife for knife, gun for gun. You don't have the right to pull a gun and we're fighting fists.
Silk was tragically killed when Von was just 11 years old, a loss that hit deep and stayed with him forever. And according to the streets, there are 2 major theories about what really happened to Silk that day. Now, when it comes to how Silk really lost his life, the streets still can't agree. It's one of those stories that got everybody talking. The first theory says Silk was set up by someone he trusted. Word is, a close friend called him out late one night to handle some quick business, but it was a trap. When Silk pulled up, shots started flying, and he never made it alive. People say it was over money, maybe jealousy, maybe betrayal. But whatever it was, it caught everyone off guard because Silk was too smart to get played that easy. The second story floating around says Silk's death came from a long-running street beef that finally caught up to him. Some say the ops had been plotting for months, waiting for the right time to strike. They knew where he hung out, what car he drove, even what route he took home. So when that moment came, they didn't hesitate. They hit him fast, and by the time the police showed up, it was already too late.
It's a back door. It ain't gonna never make sense to you because you wasn't there for the payment to get dropped off to Lil Tim.
How you know that this payment was dropped off to Lil Tim? I heard you say you was with him.
I'm with him.
Okay, so take us back to that day when you and Vonnie went to go drop off the bag. How did that happen? What was going on?
Vonnie come get me from the house. They already got the money ready in the back of the Suburban, maybe a 97, 98 Suburban. And give me a pipe. I don't ask no questions. We roll and we go to the country part of Georgia, and we can even pull my phone records. And that may let us know because my phone started roaming. This how deep we was in the sticks. My phone was roaming.
Both theories carry weight, but what's real is that Silk's death left a hole in the streets and a permanent mark on Von's heart. Losing his father that young changed him forever. From that point on, Von was different, colder, tougher, and more focused on making his name mean something. People close to him said he started studying his dad's every move, from the way Silk carried himself to how he handled loyalty, money, and respect. It's like Von wanted to finish what his father started, but take it even further. He didn't just want to be Silk's son, he wanted to be a legend of his own. And that's exactly what happened. The fire that built King Von came straight from the loss of Silk. His father's name lived on through his music, his attitude, and his reputation in the streets. Even after all those years, people still say Silk walked so Von could run. The first theory says Silk lost his life because he robbed the wrong person, a move that came back to haunt him. According to OTF Vonnie's father, Hassan Craig, Silk supposedly broke into someone's house and took their money. But here's the twist. That person had security cameras inside their home, and when they checked the footage, they saw exactly who it was.
We sitting on the side of the highway in a neighborhood though, a neighborhood, little 2-lane highway, sitting on the side of the highway. Lil Tim come flying past us on a 4-wheeler. I didn't know who he was, I didn't know the name. But prior to that, let's go back prior to that, we pull up on Quando at Quando's crib. My son tried to get the money to Quando. Quando say, no, I don't want nothing to do with that. You gotta go take care of yourself. Like, you're not finna put nobody else's money in my hand and they say it was short or whatever the case may be. You take that to him. You understand? So we end up taking the money to the guy, but I'm not knowing what it's for.
The word spread quick, and from that moment, Silk's fate was sealed. Even though Von's pops was loved and respected by so many, he still had plenty of enemies lurking in the shadows. Some were jealous of his success, others couldn't stand how much power he held in the streets. And when envy mixes with money and ego, that's a deadly combo. So it's not shocking that people believe Silk got backdoored, betrayed by the very ones who smiled in his face. That's just how the streets work. Too many snakes, and you never really know who's plotting behind your back. Now, a lot of folks question this story because, truth be told, Silk was already rich. He didn't get his money from small-time robberies. He was making real cash through bigger hustles. But at the same time, being rich doesn't always stop someone from taking risks or flexing their power in the wrong way. Nobody's saying Silk was out here being a thief. This is just what's been whispered around the blocks for years. And one thing that makes the truth even harder to uncover is that Silk wasn't a rapper or a public figure like his son. He wasn't posting songs, flashing stacks online, or recording stories in the studio. Silk lived off the grid, a pure street hustler who cared only about his paper, not the fame. That's why digging up the real story about what happened to him has always been like chasing smoke in the wind. The second theory is the one most people believe, the version that feels the most real to those who were around back then. This wasn't today's Chicago with drive-bys at gas stations or ops tracking people through phones. Nah, back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, things were way different. The streets were colder, smarter, and way more calculated. Back then, the gangs moved like organized armies. You wouldn't even see the bullet or the shooter. It would all happen in silence, fast and clean. Whole hoods had systems, codes, and even protection on the rooftops. The projects, especially the high-rises, had snipers watching over the blocks like watchmen. And that's not an exaggeration. People who lived through it said if you were a stranger walking too close to their territory, you'd suddenly notice that little red dot on your chest. That was your warning, a message that they saw you long before they saw you. Step wrong, and it could be over in a second.
I don't know whether or not they finna get some weed later on or what they finna do. I don't know. You know what I mean? But by him saying, Lil Tim, running from the police on the four-wheeler, and like I said, it's like we're in the middle of a drug deal, so I know I Googled my phone because I got a partner named Tim from Memphis. He got caught up running through the woods with bags of money and everything. You can Google it. You know what I mean? And it's the same situation, so it played in my mind, because like I said, it's like we're in the middle of a drug dealer. We got money, we got pipes.
And sadly, that's exactly how Silk's story ended. It was July 31st, 2005, the day everything changed. Just like the first theory, the streets say he got backdoored by someone close to him, a so-called friend who lined him up. But not because he robbed anybody. This time, people claim it was over a deal gone bad. Silk wasn't some small-time hustler. He was moving serious weight, running real business in the streets. That day, he was at the rink of a roller skating center on 112-2 East 87th Street, just handling regular business when it happened. Out of nowhere, a single shot to the head. The streets say it came from a sniper, a professional hit that ended his life instantly. No argument, no warning, no chance to react. Just one moment he was standing, and the next he was gone. The legend of Silk ended right there on that floor. After Silk was taken out, the whole city felt it. The streets went silent for days. People couldn't believe it. A man as powerful and respected as Silk, gone just like that. The news spread fast through every block, every corner of the South Side. Some folks cried, some were angry, and others stayed quiet. Because in Chicago, silence speaks louder than words when something big goes down. The hood came out heavy for his funeral. Cars lined up for blocks. The church packed wall to wall with people standing outside just to pay their respects. Everyone knew what he meant to the streets. Silk wasn't just another hustler. He was the guy everyone looked up to, the one who had the blueprint for how to survive and still shine. Even some of his enemies showed up from a distance, not out of love, but out of respect. But while the city mourned, little Von was just 11 years old, trying to make sense of losing his dad. That kind of pain hits different when you're that young. Those who knew him back then said you could see it in his eyes. Something changed. He stopped smiling as much, started hanging with the older kids, and carried himself like he had something to prove. The streets had taken his father, and deep down, Von wanted to make sure they never forgot the name Bennett.
My man Tim, he got caught up running from the police in the woods. Matter of fact, I'm gonna just say his name, Timothy Woods. You can Google it, Memphis, Tennessee, running from the police. And he got caught with 200,000 in the woods and all this type of crazy stuff. So the situation reminded me of that. And then for this to be the same person that ended up shooting Von, this is what that money had to be for.
From that point on, Von started walking in his father's footsteps, but his way, more strategic, more ruthless, more calculated. People close to him said he used to talk about Silk all the time, saying things like, "My pops was solid, real solid." You could tell Von wanted to carry that same reputation, loyalty, respect, and no fear of the streets. Silk's death didn't just make Von tougher, it turned him into something else entirely. It gave him drive, a reason to build his own legacy. And before long, the same energy that once made Silk a legend started to show up in Von. The confidence, that heart, that hunger to be remembered forever. After Silk's death, life in Chicago didn't move the same. It was like the whole South Side froze in shock. The energy on the block changed overnight. The hustlers, the old heads, even the shorties, everybody felt that loss. Silk wasn't just another name in the streets. He was the example of how to make it, how to stay solid, and how to stand tall no matter what. When he died, people didn't just lose a man, they lost a symbol. His funeral was one for the books. Cars stretched for blocks, engines rumbling low while music played softly in the background. The church couldn't even hold the crowd. Folks were standing shoulder to shoulder inside and lined up outside just to get a glimpse or say goodbye. Even people who never met Silk came through just to pay their respects. And yeah, some of his enemies pulled up too, not on violence, out of pure respect. That's how deep his impact was. Meanwhile, on the other side of all that chaos, there was Vaughn, just 11 years old, standing there trying to understand why the man he looked up to was gone forever. That kind of heartbreak changes a kid for life. People around him said after that day, he wasn't the same anymore. The light in his eyes dimmed. He started spending more time with the older crowd, soaking up their game and moving like he had something to prove. Vaughn carried that pain like armor. He wanted to make sure the name Bennett never got forgotten. Folks close to him said he used to talk about his dad all the time, always calling him real solid and saying he wanted to be just like him. You could see it in his style, his attitude, his loyalty, his fearlessness. Silk's death didn't just toughen Vaughn up, it molded him. It gave him a mission, a purpose, a reason to go harder than anyone around him. That same spark that once made Silk a legend started burning inside Vaughn. That confidence, that heart, that hunger to be remembered forever. In one interview, King Von's uncle straight up confirmed it. His big brother Silk was taken out by a sniper rifle. The shot came clean, distant, and deadly. No warning, no noise, just one trigger pull that changed everything forever. It's wild to think about. A man as solid as Silk gone in an instant because of street politics and betrayal. Even though Vaughn was just a kid when it happened, that loss shaped him into who he became. Losing his father to the streets wasn't just pain, it was a lesson, a reminder of how dangerous that life could get. Vaughn carried that memory like a scar that never healed, and if you listen closely to his songs, you'll hear how much Silk meant to him. He dropped his dad's name, Silk from Ada Park, more than once, keeping his legacy alive through every bar. You could tell Vaughn truly loved his father, not just from his lyrics, but from all the times he posted about him online. That's not a son holding grudges, that's a son honoring the man he looked up to. Even though they didn't get much time together, Vaughn cherished every single moment they had. And when you look at them side by side, it's almost eerie. They look alike, they move alike, they even carried the same energy. Both started getting money young, both were feared and respected, and everyone knew if you were in their circle, you had to be solid. But the craziest part? Both father and son were betrayed by the people closest to them, set up by so-called friends, the very ones they trusted most. It's a painful reflection, almost like history repeating itself in the most tragic way possible. Now the question everyone's been asking, do you think Vaughn was backdoored by OTF Vonnie or others connected to OTF? Or do you think that's just street rumors getting twisted? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you rocked with this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for more wild stories just like this one. Check out the next video on either side, because trust me, it only gets crazier from here.